One man went missing in this forest. Rescuers found only his camera. The footage ended with heavy footsteps and a shadow no human could make. Since that night, people keep spotting the same creature, watching, waiting. This isn't a legend. This is real Bigfoot footage. Let's watch the encounters of Bigfoot. A homeowner living near the edge of a wooded area started noticing heavy footsteps after dark. Not animals, not wind, and by morning, unfamiliar footprints appeared scattered across the property. Concerned, the owner contacted investigators to take a closer look. The search led them to the far southwestern section of the land, an area where most of the activity had been reported. At first, nothing seemed wrong. The forest was silent, almost unnaturally quiet. The only sign of change was nearby construction, where a new housing development was slowly pushing closer to the tree line. Then it happened. A sound. Slow, deliberate movement coming from the woods. The camera turns, and emerging between the trees stands a massive figure. Tall, broad, covered in dark hair. It doesn't rush forward. It doesn't hide. It simply stands there, watching. When scientists later reviewed the footage, they focused on motion consistency, lighting, and digital artifacts, specifically looking for signs of AI or CGI. They found none. No generated frames, no manipulation. What this camera captured is raw footage. And that leaves one unsettling question. Was this just a staged moment for attention, or did something unknown briefly step into view on private land? This video begins on an ordinary drive home. In broad daylight, a man was traveling along a forest road on his way back to the city. The road was empty. The trees were dense. Nothing felt unusual until something crossed in front of his car. At first, his mind couldn't process what he was seeing. A massive figure stepped onto the road, nearly 20 feet tall, towering, dark, moving with slow, deliberate control. He froze. Instead of driving away, his hands shook as he reached for his camera. The creature stopped. It didn't charge. It didn't hide. It simply stood there, aware it was being watched. For several seconds, they faced each other. Man and something that looked less like an animal and more like a big living nightmare. The witness later said he was convinced he wouldn't make it out alive, but the figure never approached. Without urgency, it turned and walked back into the forest, disappearing between the trees. No sound, no aggression, just silence. This wasn't filmed at night. This wasn't deep wilderness. This happened in daylight, on a road used by everyday people. Some people says this was Bigfoot. Some says this is something else. What was that? Tell me in comments below. And that leaves one question. If this was real, how many times has it happened before, without anyone recording? And next clip will shock you. It was winter in a remote Russian forest, with snow falling steadily and visibility fading fast. A lone individual raised their camera, not expecting to capture anything unusual, just the sound of wind and snow moving through the trees. Then, between the trunks, a dark shape appeared. At first, it was difficult to understand what it was. The figure was tall, solid, and completely black, moving slowly through the snowfall. It didn't look toward the camera. It didn't react. It simply walked forward, unaware it was being recorded. The person behind the camera froze, not because something attacked, but because nothing did. There was no sudden movement, no threat, no warning, just a massive shape passing silently through the forest as if it belonged there. Later, when the footage was reviewed, analysts examined frame consistency, depth, and lighting reflections in the snow. They found no signs of digital manipulation or artificial generation. What remains is unedited footage of an unexplained figure moving through a winter forest. A visitor hiking through the darkness claimed something massive crossed the trail. Too tall, too fast, to be human. Hours later, hunters in the same forest captured it again. This time, clearer. A towering figure moving between the trees. Bigfoot. But then, the moment no one expected. In the middle of the night, a rider on a forest road suddenly collided with something huge. The impact was violent. The rider went down. And here's where it gets terrifying. What they recorded doesn't just show a creature, it shows a presence that may have been watching the forest all along. Stay with me, because what happens next is the reason this footage is still being debated today. One of the most unusual encounters ever reported began with a late-night crash on a remote California highway. A man driving an RV claimed he struck something massive near Willow Creek, an area long associated with Sasquatch legends. At first, The story sounded easy to dismiss. That changed when investigators examined more than one recording. Alongside the vehicle's dash camera, a second video emerged, captured on a phone by the passenger sitting just feet away. The incident unfolded along an empty stretch of Highway 299, close to the Bluff Creek region. The dash footage shows the exact moment a large figure bursts from the tree line and collides directly with the front of the vehicle, jolting it with violent force. Instead of collapsing, the creature appears to regain its balance, rolling toward the shoulder of the road before standing and moving away, seemingly uninjured. While the driver was cited for driving under the influence, officials from the local sheriff's department acknowledged that the footage itself raised questions they couldn't immediately answer. The recordings reveal a tall, upright figure with a heavy build, details that quickly drew the attention of researchers studying unexplained phenomena. Specialists are now reviewing both camera angles, closely examining movement patterns, body proportions, and estimated height to determine what was truly captured that night. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, construction workers made a discovery that has shocked researchers and mystery hunters around the world. These images capture what appears to be the fossilized remains of an enormous creature, one that locals are calling the Amazon Bigfoot. The body was found partially buried beneath layers of soil and clay during a routine land clearing operation. The creature's surface shows a hardened, stone-like texture, almost as if the entire body was preserved over centuries. Notice the color, a pale gray mixed with earth tones, blending with the surrounding ground. Judging by the worker standing nearby, this creature measures over 8 feet long, with massive arms stretching nearly 4 feet each. The proportions are unlike any known animal in the Amazon. The structure of the hands is especially striking, thick, elongated, and powerful, matching many eyewitness descriptions of legendary forest giants. Is this truly the fossilized body of a Bigfoot, or something even stranger? Experts are now studying the site and will keep you updated as more details emerge. It was supposed to be a calm day on the water, just a man in his boat, recording the quiet beauty of a lonely island. Nothing unusual, nothing strange, just trees, waves, and silence. But when he zoomed in, something caught his eye. A dark figure, standing perfectly still at the tree line. At first he thought it was a shadow, or maybe a fallen tree. But then he saw it, a massive shape, towering, broad, almost human. The moment he focused the camera, the figure moved, slowly, stepping back into the forest like it knew it was being watched. He didn't realize what he captured until a month later, when he checked the footage again. And that's when the truth hit him. Did he film Bigfoot, or something even stranger? The night the forest changed, people are still arguing about what really happened on that lonely dirt road in Ohio. But the trail cam's timestamp, 3:12 a.m., never lied. 2 figures slipped into the frame as if they stepped through a doorway no human eye could see. Their eyes glowed sharp and cold. A deer slid past them, moving in a way no normal animal ever should, almost as if something was guiding it. Then, the larger creature leaned forward, slow, steady, powerful. The smaller one pulled the buck with a calm, practiced rhythm, the same controlled precision you see in an old wrestler who already knows exactly how the body in front of him will fall. And that's what made it so unsettling. These weren't frantic animals. They moved with the quiet authority people used to whisper about in the old woodborne frontier stories, beings that walked upright long before settlers ever carved those forests into maps. So, what do you call a pair of creatures that behave less like wildlife and more like a team enforcing rules we were never supposed to learn? Because if this was just their nightly patrol, what happens the moment the camera stops watching them? 2017, a woman visiting an American forest raised her camera and recorded something she couldn't explain. Beneath a fallen tree, a large brown figure lay motionless, blending into the ground. She filmed only a few seconds. Then the figure slowly turned its head toward her. She ran. When analysts and scientists later reviewed the footage, they searched for AI, CGI, and digital manipulation. Their conclusion? This video shows no signs of artificial intelligence. What you're about to see is raw, unaltered footage. So the question is simple. Was this just a shadow in the forest, or something watching her the entire time? After a man went missing in a remote forest following a reported encounter with Bigfoot, Search teams placed multiple cameras throughout the area. These weren't research cameras, they were looking for answers. Days later, one of those cameras recorded something unexpected. In the middle of the forest, in full daylight, a massive figure appears, estimated at nearly 9 feet tall, completely black, covered in thick, heavy hair. It doesn't move toward the camera. It doesn't flee, it simply stands there, beside the trees. Then it releases a deep, powerful scream. At one moment, the figure appears to notice the camera watching it, but it does nothing. No reaction, no aggression. When scientists later reviewed the footage, they examined motion patterns, lighting consistency, and AI generation markers. Their conclusion was clear. This is not artificial intelligence. This is real footage. So the question isn't what was captured. It's why it allowed itself to be seen. What you're about to see didn't come from a lab, and it didn't come from the internet. It came from deep inside the Russian wilderness, a place where cameras rarely reach and explanations arrive even slower. At first, the hunters thought nothing of it, just a dark figure moving between the trees. Their first reaction was almost casual. It's probably a man in a costume. But then they zoomed in. What the camera captured next changed everything. This creature were pooping too much. The creature was completely covered in long black hair. Not fur, not fabric, hair that moved naturally with its body. Its frame looked disturbingly familiar, almost human, yet wrong. Roughly the size of a large man. Broad shoulders, long arms, about half the proportions people associate with Bigfoot. And then came the detail no one expected. The creature was defecating excessively. Not staged, not controlled, not something anyone would include in a costume or fake encounter. One hunter later said, "That's when I knew this wasn't a man." When scientists and independent analysts reviewed the raw footage, they focused on the movement, the muscle tension beneath the hair, and the biological response itself. Their conclusion was unsettlingly consistent. This was not AI, not CGI, not a digital fabrication. The lighting reacts correctly. The motion follows real anatomy. The behavior shows stress, not performance. Some experts stopped short of naming it. Others whispered something even more disturbing. What if this wasn't a myth, but a living thing caught at its most vulnerable moment? Tonight, we'll break down the footage frame by frame. What's real? What's unexplained? And why this encounter has reignited claims that Bigfoot may not be a legend after all. Watch carefully, because the smallest detail might be the one that changes everything. This footage didn't start with a camera rolling. It started with a sound. Late one night, on the edge of a forest, a local man heard something outside his home. Heavy footsteps pressing into the ground, followed by slow, deep breathing that didn't sound like any animal he knew. At first, he tried to explain it away. Maybe it was a man, maybe a thief, maybe wildlife moving through the trees. But the sounds didn't stop, so he followed them. What he captured next has divided viewers ever since. In the darkness, a massive figure appears, tall, broad, and moving upright. The video is grainy, slightly blurred, filmed on an older night camera that struggled in low light. But one detail cuts through the distortion immediately: the eyes. When the man turns his light toward the figure, its eyes ignite, bright, reflective, unmistakably alive. For a brief second, the face becomes visible, pale, almost white against the blackness of the forest. People who've studied the footage point out something crucial. This isn't AI. There are no digital artifacts. The motion doesn't loop or glitch. The blur matches older camera limitations, not computer generation. Most convincing of all is what happens next. The creature turns its head, not aggressively, but suddenly, as if startled, and then it runs, not like an animal fleeing blindly, but like something that realized it had been seen. Viewers who've analyzed this clip say the fear feels real on both sides of the camera. The man's breathing changes, the camera shakes, and the creature disappears into the trees faster than expected for something that size. The following footage was captured by a group of hikers who say they stumbled upon a scene unlike anything they had ever imagined. At first, the shapes in the distance were impossible to identify, but as the camera adjusted, the figures came into focus, revealing a massive, dark, human-like creature locked in combat with a full-grown brown bear. The darker figure, coated in deep charcoal black hair, stands upright with powerful, thick-set limbs. Witnesses described it as resembling the legendary Bigfoot, its movements surprisingly controlled, almost strategic. Facing it is a muscular brown bear, its coat a rich mix of amber and copper tones, shifting as it lunges forward with raw strength. The bear is no less formidable, every motion showing the full force of an apex predator. What shocks the onlookers most is not just the fight, but the balance of power. Blow for blow, the two creatures seem evenly matched. The bear relies on brute force and instinct, while the black figure responds with surprising agility and endurance. Those who recorded the encounter say the moment felt unreal. Two giants, one known, one only rumored, battling in an unknown wilderness far from any familiar trails. Whether this footage will ever be fully explained remains uncertain. But one thing is clear. In this rare moment, two powerful beings met as equals, each as strong, each as fierce, and each commanding the raw force of nature itself. This footage doesn't begin with screaming. It begins with silence. A lone driver moving down a narrow road late at night. Trees pressed tightly on both sides, their branches swallowing the headlights as if the forest itself were closing in. No houses, no other cars, just darkness stretching forward. Then, something appears on the road. At first, it's hard to process. A large shape crossing slowly from one side to the other. Brown in color, massive, upright, too tall to be a deer, too wide to be a man. As the car gets closer, the driver does the only thing his instincts allow. He stops. His hands are shaking when he turns on the camera. You can hear it in his breathing. Later, he would say that in that moment, he genuinely believed this might be the last thing he ever recorded, because now the creature is fully visible. Broad shoulders, long arms, a heavy, powerful frame covered in thick brown hair. People who've studied the footage say the proportions match what witnesses have described for decades. A Bigfoot. The headlights flood the road, and the creature turns its head. For nearly 10 seconds, it doesn't charge, it doesn't run, it doesn't make a sound. It just stares, not aggressively, not curiously, but deliberately, as if weighing a decision. Viewers who've analyzed this moment point out something unsettling. The creature avoids eye contact directly with the driver, scanning the surroundings instead. A behavior consistent with awareness, not panic. Then, without warning, it steps off the road and disappears into the forest on the opposite side, swallowed instantly by the trees. No dramatic chase, no jump scare, just gone. When this video surfaced, reactions exploded. Some people immediately called it fake. Others claimed it was a man in a suit, but many noticed something harder to dismiss. This footage shows no signs of AI generation, no digital distortion, no unnatural lighting. The motion carries real weight. The shadows behave correctly, and the fear on both sides of the camera feels genuine. And that leads to the final question. What if this was real? What if a creature like this has been crossing roads like this for decades, unseen, unnoticed, until one quiet night when a driver stopped instead of speeding past? Because if this encounter was genuine, then the forest didn't just reveal something, it chose not to take it. Watch carefully. This footage didn't come from a remote expedition, it came from a casual visit. A group of visitors were walking near the edge of a forest in broad daylight, laughing, talking, filming casually, when one of them stopped cold. A young woman saw it first. Standing just inside the tree line was a figure, completely black, motionless, watching her. Not massive, not towering, roughly 6 to 7 feet tall, too small to match the Bigfoot people imagine, yet too tall to be a child. When she called the others over, they all turned to look, and the figure was gone. No sound, no movement, no direction of escape. That should have been the end of it. But later, something far more disturbing appeared. The figure wasn't running away, it was approaching the car. You can see it clearly for a moment, the dark shape moving with purpose. The reaction that follows is pure panic, screaming, shaking hands. The group rushes back to the van, terrified of what might still be nearby. People who've studied this video point out something important. This footage predates 2015. There are no AI tools, no deepfake software, no advanced visual effects available to fake something this naturally. The lighting behaves correctly. The shadows move with real depth. The fear feels unscripted. Some viewers believe it could be a child. Others say the proportions are wrong. And a growing number suggest something even more unsettling, a juvenile Bigfoot. Tonight, we'll examine the footage closely. The timing, the movement, the camera angles, and the detail most people miss the first time they watch. Because if this was just imagination, why did it show up on camera? And if it wasn't imagination, what exactly climbed into that car? Watch carefully. No one set out that morning expecting to capture anything unusual. A hiker raised his camera toward a quiet mountain ridge, thinking he was filming nothing more than snow and silence. But when the footage was reviewed, frame by frame, everything stopped. Standing in the white drift was a towering figure, a white Bigfoot, unmoving at first, its massive shoulders lifting slowly like a deep, deliberate breath. Each step pressed into the snow far deeper than any human weight ever could. Then it lowered its head. The face was hooded by fur, revealing only a dark hollow where eyes should have been, not empty, focused. A presence that didn't rush, didn't react, just watched. What unsettled researchers most wasn't its size, it was its confidence. The way it moved suggested it understood the camera was there, as if the distance between it and the hiker wasn't safety, but a decision. Its long arms swung with a heavy balance, scientists quietly compared to cold-weather primates, yet fused with something far older. Something that seemed to remember this land before footprints had names. Why does it move like a creature that knows the world we built came later, and pauses, as if measuring us in return? Whatever it looked at next was never recorded. The camera kept rolling, but the moment itself slipped away, leaving behind a silence that doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a door. It's the middle of the night. No city lights, no roads, only the sound of insects, and something moving deep inside an unknown forest. What you're about to hear is not a movie plot. It's based on a video that many claim surfaced on the dark web. A video allegedly recorded in 1996, long before AI, deepfakes, or modern CGI. The footage begins with shaky night vision visuals. 3 men are present, 2 hunters, 1 scientist, and 2 cameramen whose breathing can be clearly heard behind the lens. They are not searching. They have already caught something. In the center of the forest stands a heavy jail-like steel cage, reinforced with thick bars, something that looks far too advanced to be used in the wild. Inside the 2 cage are 2 creatures. Witnesses describe them as Bigfoot-like beings. One is completely black, unnaturally tall, barely moving, watching silently. The second is brown in color, more aggressive, pacing back and forth, clearly distressed. The men keep their distance. The scientist speaks calmly, almost coldly, explaining that the subject must be sedated. What happens next is the most disturbing part of the video. One of the hunters raises what looks like an injection rifle, not a normal gun, but a tranquilizer device used for large animals. The brown creature lets out a deep, painful sound. Then the shot is fired. The dart hits slowly. The creature collapses, not dead, unconscious. The cameraman zooms in, hands shaking. The scientist approaches the cage and begins drawing blood samples, carefully labeling containers, treating the creature not as a legend, but as biological evidence. Throughout the footage, the black creature remains silent, watching, almost intelligent. The video ends abruptly. No explanation, no credits, just static. Since then, many versions of this video have appeared and disappeared from hidden forums. Some say it was a government operation. Others believe it was an illegal private experiment, funded off the record. Journalists who tried to trace the source hit dead ends. Files vanished. Accounts were deleted. And here's what makes this case even stranger. This footage predates modern CGI. The lighting is raw. The camera quality matches the 1990s. The reactions feel real, too real. Skeptics say it's fake. Believers say it's proof that some truths are hidden, buried deeper than any forest. If this video is real, the real question is, do these creatures exist? How long have they known? And why were we never told? The woods were quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful, more like restrained. Then, the figure appeared. A massive shape stepped into view with a pace far too controlled for something that large. Its upper body rotated smoothly, almost like a seasoned runner easing into motion. Branches bent and slid aside as it moved forward. Not hurried, not cautious, certain. Its stride never broke rhythm. It crossed the terrain as if every rise and hollow had been memorized long ago. Analysts who reviewed the footage noticed something disturbing. The shoulder movement didn't match any known primate in North America. It wasn't adjusting to the forest. It moved like the forest had been shaped around it. What's even harder to explain is the posture. The head stays slightly lowered, eyes fixed ahead. Not aggressive, not defensive, more like recognition.
Oh my God. You see it? Yeah, don't move. Just keep it down.
In the quiet forests of Alberta, Canada, where the wind moves like whispers between endless rows of pine, something happened that no one on that construction site will ever forget. At first, it was just an ordinary workday. Engines humming, metal clanking, dust rising in the sunlight. But then, one of the workers lifted his camera and captured something gigantic, moving far beyond the job site's boundary. At first, they thought it was a bear, then maybe a moose. But this thing was walking on two legs, tall, heavy, broad-shouldered, its stride calm, almost relaxed, like it knew exactly where it was going. Not hiding, not afraid, just walking, in broad daylight. The workers stood frozen. This creature was massive, easily over 7 feet tall. Dark fur catching the sunlight, long arms swinging with every step. And although the distance made details hard to see, one thing was clear. It didn't move like any animal they knew. It moved like something almost human. Clumps of snow shook off branches as it passed. Even from far away, the ground seemed to tremble with its weight. The strangest part? It didn't act aggressive. It didn't run. It didn't even look back. It just moved calmly between the trees, as if this massive creature had been walking there every day, long before humans ever arrived with trucks, drills, and construction plans. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it stepped behind a thick wall of forest and vanished. No tracks found, no broken branches, no sign of where it went. Only the camera footage and the stunned silence of the workers who watched something they knew no one would ever believe. This wasn't nighttime. This wasn't a blurry shadow. This was the clearest daytime sighting Alberta has ever seen. A creature that looked exactly like Bigfoot, calmly walking through human territory, as if warning us that these forests still belong to them. But here's the question that still haunts the team on that site. If this creature wasn't afraid of humans, what happens the next time it walks even closer? Do you think this was a real Bigfoot? Or something even more powerful living in the forests of Canada? Next clip will completely shock you. Russia's frozen forests are already terrifying, silent, endless, and colder than anything most people will ever experience. But one winter night, a group of visitors celebrating a small party deep in the woods learned that this forest hides something far more frightening than the cold. While everyone was laughing, dancing, and enjoying the snowfall, one man wandered a little too far from the group and noticed something strange in the untouched snow. Huge footprints. Not human, not animal. These prints were massive, easily twice the size of his own boots, and sunk deep into the snow as if something extremely heavy had passed through. Curiosity got the best of him. He lifted his phone, hit record, and slowly followed the trail deeper into the forest. Every step he took, the wind grew quieter. The trees felt heavier, as if the forest itself was watching. Then he saw it. A towering white creature standing between the trees, 7, maybe 8 feet tall, covered in thick, snow-white fur that blended perfectly with the blizzard, its breath forming massive clouds in the frozen air. It didn't roar. It didn't run. It just stood there, staring, as if studying him. For a full second, neither of them moved, and that was enough. He turned and sprinted back toward the party, slipping, falling, scrambling through the snow as the creature's shadow disappeared behind the trees. He uploaded the footage online, and within hours, the video exploded across social media. Millions of people watched it, frame by frame, trying to understand if this was real or staged. But here's the part that made the world even more terrified. Scientists stepped in. They analyzed the video, the footprints, the movements, and their conclusion shocked everyone. We can't even fully explore the Amazon rainforest, so how can we be sure what lives in the frozen forests of Russia if the Amazon hides creatures we've never seen? What about the snow-covered wilderness where almost no humans ever go? And the scariest detail? Experts confirmed the creature's body size and movement didn't match any known animal in Russia. Whatever was in that video, it wasn't a bear, it wasn't a wolf, it wasn't anything we can explain. But that leaves us with one chilling question. If that Yeti was bold enough to walk near a human party, what happens the next time one of them decides not to just watch, but get closer? Do you think this was a real Yeti? Or is something even bigger hiding in Russia's endless snow? The Patterson-Gimlin footage is often called the most convincing Bigfoot video ever recorded. And even today, nobody has managed to debunk it. Back in 1967, deep inside the forests near Bluff Creek, Northern California, two men were out on horseback, exploring the rugged terrain. Roger Patterson had his 16mm camera with him, just casually shooting parts of their ride with his friend, Bob Gimlin. But then, everything changed. As they moved along the creek bed, a large, upright figure suddenly walked into view. Patterson jumped off his horse instantly, grabbing his camera and filming the creature as it moved between the towering trees. The footage came out shaky. He was running on rough ground. But what was captured changed the entire Bigfoot debate forever. Over the decades, experts and researchers have digitally enhanced and stabilized the old film, revealing details that were easy to miss before. Muscle movement, proportions, and that iconic turning head. But here's the part that still shocks people today. Shortly after the video was shot, the film was shown to professional special effects artists from major Hollywood studios, including Disney and Universal. And their verdict? With the technology available in the 1960s, creating a suit that realistic would have been nearly impossible. Even Hollywood couldn't recreate it. Now, more than 50 years later, no one has ever proven the footage fake. No one has come forward saying they were in a costume, and no filmmaker has been able to reproduce anything that looks even close to the original. The Patterson-Gimlin film remains one of the most mysterious, most debated, and most believable pieces of Bigfoot evidence ever recorded. Far away from the noise of cities, there's a small village surrounded by thick, endless forest. A peaceful place. Quiet, calm, almost untouched by time. But one night, something broke that silence. Something the villagers still refuse to talk about. This story begins with a man who lived alone at the forest's edge, with only his loyal dog to keep him company. It was past midnight when his dog suddenly started growling, low at first, then louder, then barking, like it sensed something dangerous. He tried calming it down, but the dog wouldn't stop. Its eyes locked toward the dark tree line behind the house, as if something was standing there, curious and a little worried. The man grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The forest looked normal, cold wind brushing through the branches, moonlight shining over the leaves. But something felt wrong. He walked slowly, shining his light between the trees, left, right, deeper. But he saw nothing. Yet the feeling of being watched grew stronger with every step. Leaves rustled. A branch cracked. Something big was out there, hiding, waiting, studying him. He whispered to himself, probably just a wolf or a boar. But he knew deep inside that wasn't true. After a few minutes, he returned home, locked the door, and tried to forget it. He even set up a small webcam facing the living room window, hoping to catch whatever was disturbing the dog. He had no idea that this single decision would reveal something terrifying. Hours passed. The dog finally fell asleep. The man relaxed, thinking it was all in his head. But in the forest, something was moving. Slow, heavy, cautious, walking toward the house. And at 3:17 a.m., the webcam recorded something no one was prepared for. Through the window, a massive shadow rose into view. At first, it seemed like a man. But then, the shape grew taller, broader, covered in hair. Long arms, deep chest, shoulders so wide they nearly filled the frame. It leaned closer to the window, and the webcam caught its face. A huge, ape-like creature with dark, sunken eyes, breathing fog on the cold glass, watching the sleeping man inside the house. For a full 3 seconds, it just stood there, blinking slowly, as if deciding something. Then, it stepped backward and vanished into the darkness. The next morning, when the man woke up, he checked the webcam footage. At first, he laughed, thinking it was a glitch. But when he watched it frame by frame, his blood froze. Outside his window were giant footprints in the dirt, 3 times bigger than a human's, deep, heavy, leading straight back into the forest. He called his neighbors, but none of them wanted to come. Everyone had heard stories before, shadows in the trees, strange howls at night, but no one expected it to get this close. Word spread through the village, and people barricaded their doors. Children were kept inside. Farmers stopped working after sunset. This wasn't a wolf. This wasn't a bear. This was something else, something intelligent, something strong enough to walk silently through a forest, and brave enough to stand inches away from a human window. But here's the most disturbing part. For the next 3 nights, the dog kept barking at exactly the same time, 3:17 a.m. which means whatever visited that window might have come back. So the real question is, if this creature could walk right up to the window without being heard, what happens the next time it decides to come inside? Do you think this was a Bigfoot or something even scarier living in the village forests? California's forests are beautiful during the day, but when the sun goes down, they turn into something completely different. Dark, silent, endless, and one man found out the hard way that some things only come out at night. He wasn't a hunter or an explorer, just a regular guy who wanted to spend a quiet night under the stars. A simple camping trip that turned into something he still can't explain. Around midnight, he finally drifted off to sleep, but minutes later, he woke up to the sound of footsteps. Not small ones, not light. These were heavy, slow, deliberate. The kind of footsteps that make the ground vibrate just a little. His heart started racing. He knew the forest had mountain lions, bears, wolves, but this didn't sound like any of them. It almost sounded like something walking on two legs. He grabbed his phone, hit record, and slowly reached for his torch. He whispered to the camera, "I think something's circling me." The darkness around him looked endless. He pointed the torch left, nothing. Pointed it right, nothing. Just trees, shadows, and the sound of his own breathing. But the footsteps got louder, closer, almost like whatever it was waiting for him to look away. Leaves cracked behind him, twigs snapped, and his dog, who was usually fearless, hid behind him, trembling. Then, he turned the torch toward a thick group of trees, and something massive flashed across the screen. A tall, white figure covered in fur, standing upright like a human, but towering above any man he had ever seen. For a split second, the torchlight hit its face. Deep-set eyes, long arms, snow-colored fur that glowed in the light. And then it moved, not walking, not hiding. It ran, crashing through the forest with the speed of a wild animal, but the posture of a person. He gasped, whispering, "Did I just see a white Bigfoot?" The camera caught everything. The glowing eyes, the outline, the movement, all deep in the California wilderness. He didn't sleep again that night. He stayed awake until sunrise, gripping his torch, listening to every sound. But the creature never came back. The next morning, he returned to the same spot where he saw it and found giant footprints in the dirt. Long, wide, human-like, but far bigger than any human could ever make. He uploaded the footage online, and instantly it went viral. People started calling it the White Bigfoot of California, a creature rarely reported, almost mythical, and almost never captured on camera. The strangest part? Local hikers later claimed they had heard the same footsteps in the same area, but none of them had ever seen what was making those sounds. But now, we might have the first real glimpse. So, the real question is, if this white Bigfoot can appear this close to a sleeping camper, what happens when someone wakes up and it's standing only a few feet away? Do you think this creature is real, or is something even stranger living in the forests of California? Africa's forests are known for their wildlife: lions, hyenas, elephants. But there is one part of the forest tourists rarely visit, a place the locals warn people about, a place where, according to old stories, a creature walks when the world is asleep. And one night, a group of visitors walked straight into those stories. They came to enjoy a simple vacation, a fun night under the stars, a campfire, songs, food, laughter. Nothing dangerous, nothing unusual, just a peaceful evening in the middle of nature. But they had no idea they were not alone. The group set up 2 hidden cameras around their tents just for fun, to catch any wild animals wandering by. Around 2 a.m., the first camera recorded something. A tall shadow moving between the trees, slow, unsteady, almost curious. But the camera angle wasn't clear, just a large, dark figure passing by. They didn't notice it until morning. But 2 hours later, the second camera recorded something even stranger. The same figure, but closer. Big, wide shoulders, long arms, and a strange, heavy walk. No lion walks like that. No gorilla stands that tall. But none of the visitors knew, because they were all asleep. All except one. An 18-year-old boy woke up suddenly. He didn't know why. The air felt heavier. The forest felt too quiet. Unnaturally quiet. He sat up, listening. Nothing. No insects. No wind. Just silence. He grabbed his phone and stepped outside the tent. He whispered, "Is someone out here?" He wasn't expecting an answer. He was just recording the moment. something to remember from the trip. He had no idea his memory would become a nightmare watched by the entire world. He walked with his small flashlight, pointing it at the trees. Left, right, up, down. Still nothing. He walked deeper into the forest, looking for whatever had woken him. 10 minutes passed. 20 minutes passed. His breathing grew heavier. The forest felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. Then, he heard a sound behind him, a low rumble, a heavy exhale, a branch snapping under something enormous. He slowly turned, and that's when his life changed. Standing behind him was a creature bigger than any human, covered in thick brown and black fur, blending perfectly with the night. Its eyes, glowing red, stared directly at him, not with anger, not with hunger, but with curiosity. The boy froze. He whispered the only thing his mind could think of. "Oh my God, what are you?" The creature took one slow step forward. The ground shook slightly. Its breath was deep, like the rumble of a drum. Fear finally kicked in. The boy turned and ran. His camera shook violently as he sprinted through the forest. Branches whipped at his face. Leaves cracked under his feet. Behind him, he heard it following. Huge footsteps, crashing through the brush, fast, but not trying to attack. It wasn't roaring. It wasn't screaming. It was just following him. The boy stumbled, almost fell, then kept running until he finally saw the light of the campfire far ahead. He dashed toward the tents, yelling for help. As he got close, the footsteps behind him suddenly stopped. He turned the phone back toward the forest, but the creature had vanished. Not even a sound, not even a shadow. Only the glowing red eyes, fading slowly deeper into the trees. When the group checked the footage in the morning, they were stunned. The cameras had recorded the creature twice. The boy's phone recorded it from only a few feet away. The creature didn't hurt him, didn't attack, didn't roar. It just watched him, followed him, and then disappeared. The boy said something that sent chills through everyone. It wasn't trying to kill me. It was trying to understand me. His recording became viral overnight. Millions of people debated it. Experts said the creature's size and movement didn't match any known animal in Africa. Some called it a Bigfoot. Some called it a forest spirit. Others believed it was something undiscovered, something ancient. But one thing was certain. That memory wasn't his alone anymore. The world would never forget it. But here's the question that everyone is still afraid to ask. If this creature was brave enough to follow a human, what happens the next time one of these visitors decides to follow it? Is Africa hiding something much bigger in its forests? Or did this boy capture the first warning sign of something even more mysterious?